Hi, I'm Maggie. I never thought I'd be sitting across from my husband in a courtroom, but sometimes life has a way of showing you who people really are when you need them most. Maggie, have you seen my blue tie? Jake called from our bedroom. Mom and I are heading out in 20 minutes. I leaned against the bathroom door frame, fighting a wave of dizziness. It's hanging in your closet, behind your gray suit. Thanks, babe. His voice was distracted, rushing. Are you sure you'll be okay on your own? Something warm trickled down my leg. I looked down to see blood dripping onto the tile floor. 6 weeks pregnant. At least I had been until the cramping started an hour ago. Jake, I think something's wrong, I said, my voice trembling. I'm bleeding pretty badly. Jake appeared in the hallway, his mother Eleanor right behind him, her designer suitcase waiting by the front door. Jake, we need to leave now if I'm going to make my flight, Eleanor said, barely glancing in my direction. Mom, Maggie's bleeding. She's pregnant, remember? Jake's voice held a note of concern, but his eyes kept darting to his watch. Eleanor stepped closer, her lips pursed as she assessed me with cold eyes. She's fine. Women spot all the time during pregnancy. Don't be so dramatic, dear. But it's not spotting, I whispered, clutching my abdomen as another cramp seized me. Something's wrong. I need to go to the hospital. Jake hesitated, looking between us. If you miss this business trip because of her little drama, you can kiss that promotion goodbye, Eleanor said firmly. She has friends, doesn't she? She can call someone if it gets worse. My phone's dead, I said. And everyone's at work. Jake, please. My husband stepped forward, touched my cheek briefly. Mom's right. If it gets worse, Mrs. Peterson next door can help. I'll be back tonight. It's just a few hours. Jake! I clutched his arm. The baby! Eleanor cut me off. Jake, we're going to be late. I've raised 3 children. I know what an emergency looks like. This isn't one. Listen to your body, Maggie, Jake said, already backing away. Rest, fluids. I'll call from the airport. Don't make this into something it's not, Eleanor added with a dismissive wave. Drama doesn't become you. 20 minutes later, I was alone on our bathroom floor, blood pooling beneath me, too weak to reach the landline in the kitchen. By the time Mrs. Peterson found me, I'd lost the baby and nearly my life from blood loss. She was white as a ghost when I found her, Mrs. Peterson told my best friend Lily in the hospital waiting room 2 days later. If I hadn't decided to bring over that casserole... Lily's face was tight with anger. Where was Jake during all this? Dropping his mother at the airport, Mrs. Peterson replied. Said she had some big charity function back east. And he just left Maggie bleeding? Lily's voice rose incredulously. Dr. Rivera approached, clipboard in hand. Mrs. Harper is stable, but she'll need time to recover, both physically and emotionally. The miscarriage was complete, but the blood loss was severe. Another hour and we might have lost her. Has her husband been notified? The doctor asked. Lily's eyes narrowed. Oh, he knows. Whether he cares is another question entirely. You should have seen his face when he finally showed up at the hospital, Lily said, setting a cup of tea on my coffee table. Like he'd forgotten to pick up dry cleaning, not left his pregnant wife bleeding out at home. It had been 3 weeks since the incident. Jake was staying with his mother, giving me space to heal, as he put it. My brother Tom paced my living room, his normally jovial face taut with anger. I can't believe he's not even trying to apologize properly. 1 bouquet of flowers and he thinks that's enough? Eleanor's convinced him it wasn't that serious, I said, my voice hollow. She keeps telling people I overreacted. Overreacted? Tom stopped pacing. Mags, you nearly died. Dr. Rivera confirmed it. The doorbell rang. Lily answered it, returning with my college roommate Adriana, now a family attorney. Sorry I'm late, Adriana said, setting her briefcase down. Traffic was brutal. How are you holding up, Maggie? Been better. I managed a weak smile. Thanks for coming. Of course. She squeezed my hand. Lily filled me in on what happened. I brought the medical records you requested. Tom crossed his arms. So what are our options here? Adriana opened her briefcase. Well, abandonment in a medical emergency can absolutely factor into a divorce settlement, especially when a third party influenced the decision. I don't know if I want a divorce, I said quietly. Maggie, Lily exclaimed. He left you bleeding on the floor because his mommy told him to. It's not that simple. I twisted my wedding ring. We've been together 8 years. And in 8 years, has Eleanor ever shown you an ounce of respect? Tom asked pointedly. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. Mom says we should talk about selling the house when this blows over. Too many bad memories now. I showed them the message. Unbelievable, Tom muttered. Wait, Adriana said, leaning forward. Has Eleanor always interfered like this? Always, I nodded. Jake never stands up to her. What about financial decisions? Adriana asked, scribbling notes. The house is in my name, I said. My inheritance from Grandma. But we have joint accounts that Eleanor has advised us on. Lily's eyes widened. Didn't she convince Jake to invest in her friend's business venture last year? The one that mysteriously folded after getting our $50,000? Yeah. My voice was bitter. Eleanor said these things happen. I need you to forward me all financial records, Adriana said, her expression serious. And any texts between you and Jake about Eleanor or medical decisions. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Tom asked. Adriana nodded. Financial manipulation, medical endangerment, potentially even elder abuse given how she's controlled his decisions. We might have grounds for more than just divorce. I just wanted my husband to choose me, I whispered. Just once. Sometimes, Adriana said gently, the best revenge isn't making someone pay. It's making them face what they've done and ensuring they can never do it again. The restaurant was Jake's choice. Neutral territory. Eleanor sat beside him, uninvited but unsurprising. Across from them sat Adriana and me. I don't understand why you needed to bring a lawyer, Jake said, fidgeting with his water glass. We could have discussed this privately. Like we discussed me bleeding out on our bathroom floor? I replied evenly. Eleanor sighed dramatically. Are we still on this? Women have been having miscarriages since the dawn of time without all this fuss. Mrs. Harper nearly died, Miss Parker, Adriana stated coldly. The medical records are quite clear on that point. These things get exaggerated, Eleanor waved dismissively. Doctors always cover themselves with worst-case scenarios. Jake looked uncomfortable. Maggie, I've said I'm sorry. If I'd known how serious it was. But you did know, I interrupted. I told you I needed to go to the hospital. I was bleeding heavily, in pain, begging for help. You always were prone to anxiety, Eleanor cut in. Jake needed to help me make my flight. It was for my charity foundation. People were counting on me. And no one was counting on Jake to help his wife and unborn child, Adriana asked. Jake's face flushed. That's not fair. Mom said it was normal spotting. And you believed your mother over your wife? A woman who's never had medical training over the person actually experiencing the emergency. I leaned forward. Tell me, Jake, was her flight more important than my life? Don't be melodramatic, Eleanor snapped. Mrs. Peterson found Maggie unconscious in a pool of blood, Adriana stated. The emergency responders documented it. The hospital records show she required multiple transfusions and emergency surgery. Jake paled. I didn't know it was that bad. Because you didn't stay to find out, I said. You didn't even call to check on me. I texted, Jake protested. 6 hours later, I said, after I was already in surgery. Eleanor slammed her hand on the table. Enough. This little performance isn't going to get you sympathy or money, Maggie. Jake, we're leaving. Actually, Adriana interjected, sliding a folder across the table. These are the papers documenting the financial investigation into Eleanor's handling of joint assets belonging to Maggie and Jake. Jake frowned. What financial investigation? The one showing how your mother has systematically directed nearly $200,000 of your joint funds into shell companies owned by her friends, Adriana replied calmly, including the $50,000 investment that disappeared last year. That's ridiculous. Eleanor's voice rose. Jake, don't listen to this nonsense. It's all documented, I said quietly, along with the texts where you told Jake to ignore my medical emergency. Jake's face crumpled. Mom, is this true about the money? Of course not, Eleanor sputtered. This is a pathetic attempt to turn you against me. Tell him about the Martin property, Eleanor, I said. The one you convinced Jake was a bad investment, then purchased yourself through your friend's company. Jake turned to his mother, confusion written across his face. The lakefront lot! You said it was contaminated. Eleanor's face flushed red. You ungrateful little... After everything I've done for you. She grabbed her purse and stood. I won't sit here and be accused by your gold-digging wife! As she moved to leave, she shoved her chair back violently, knocking into a server. The crash of dishes drew every eye in the restaurant. You'll regret this, she hissed at me. Both of you will! Jake sat frozen, looking lost as his mother stormed out. Jake, I said softly, this is your chance to make a choice. All rise, the bailiff called. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Melissa Reynolds presiding. 6 months had passed since that restaurant confrontation. Jake had chosen his mother, as I knew he would. What I hadn't expected was Eleanor's reaction. The threatening calls, the accidental damage to my car, the smear campaign among our friends. In the matter of Harper v. Parker, regarding charges of financial exploitation, harassment, and reckless endangerment, how did the defendants plead? Judge Reynolds asked. Not guilty, Your Honor, Eleanor's attorney replied smoothly. Jake sat beside his mother, unable to meet my eyes across the courtroom. Mrs. Peterson testified first, describing how she found me. I've never seen so much blood in my life, she said, her voice shaking. And when I called Mr. Harper to tell him his wife was being rushed to the hospital, he said he needed to finish dropping his mother at her gate first. Dr. Rivera's testimony followed, clinical and devastating. Another hour without medical intervention would have resulted in Mrs. Harper's death. Eleanor's attorney tried to spin it as an unfortunate misunderstanding, but the financial evidence Adriana had compiled was damning. During a recess, Jake approached me in the hallway, his eyes hollow. Maggie, can we talk? Privately? We stepped into a conference room, Adriana hovering nearby. I didn't know, Jake said, his voice breaking. About the money, about how serious your condition was. Mom convinced me. Stop. I held up my hand. You're a grown man, Jake. You chose to believe what was convenient, what kept the peace with your mother. You chose her comfort over my life. I still love you, he whispered. We could start over, away from Mom's influence. I know that now. I loved you too, I replied. Enough to believe you'd be there when I needed you most. But you weren't. Please, Maggie, he begged. Everyone makes mistakes. Leaving someone to die isn't a mistake, Jake. It's a revelation of character. I stepped back. The divorce papers are being filed tomorrow. The restraining order against your mother stands. She's still my mother, Jake said weakly. And I was your wife, I replied. Remember that when the judge delivers her verdict. When the court reconvened, Judge Reynolds looked directly at Eleanor as she delivered her ruling. Miss Parker, the evidence presented shows a disturbing pattern of manipulation and control, Judge Reynolds stated firmly. Your callous disregard for your daughter-in-law's medical emergency is inexcusable. Mr. Harper, while you may have been under your mother's influence, as an adult, you had a duty to your spouse that you failed to fulfill. Eleanor shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her usual confidence faltering under the judge's stern gaze. Your Honor, Eleanor's attorney began, my client has a long history of community service and... A public facade does not excuse private cruelty, Counselor, Judge Reynolds interrupted. This court finds both defendants guilty as charged. In the end, Eleanor was found guilty on multiple counts: financial restitution, community service, and a permanent restraining order that prevented her from coming within 500 feet of me. Jake received a suspended sentence for his role, contingent on counseling and community service at the hospital where I'd nearly died. Weeks later, Lily, Tom, Adriana, and I sat in my new apartment. boxes still half unpacked around us. To justice, Tom raised his glass. And to my sister, the strongest person I know. The divorce settlement came through, Adriana announced, checking her phone. The house is officially all yours, as it should have been all along. Are you going to keep it? Lily asked. I shook my head. Too many memories. I'm selling it and using the money to finish my degree. Have you heard from Jake? Tom asked cautiously. He sent flowers last week with a card saying he's changed and wants to talk, I replied. And? Lily raised an eyebrow. And nothing, I said firmly. Some betrayals can't be undone. Some choices define who you are forever. What about Eleanor? Adriana asked. Last I heard, she's telling everyone I exaggerated everything for the money. I shrugged. But the court records speak for themselves. Jake called me yesterday, Tom admitted, looking uncomfortable. He wanted to know if you'd read his letter. What letter? Lily asked, glancing at me. I sighed. He sent a 10-page apology last week, full of excuses about how he was programmed by Eleanor his whole life. And you didn't tell us? Adriana looked surprised. Because it doesn't change anything, I said quietly. He had a lifetime of chances to be his own person, to see who his mother really is. It shouldn't have taken me nearly dying to wake him up. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if they'd just taken you to the hospital that day? Lily asked softly. I looked around at the faces of people who had actually been there for me when I needed them most. I'd still be living a lie, I answered. Sometimes the worst day of your life becomes the day that saves you from something even worse, a lifetime of betrayal. So what's next for Maggie Harper? Tom asked, smiling. I raised my glass. Living my life on my own terms. No more allowing someone else's priorities to determine my worth. I'll drink to that, Adriana said. Here's to new beginnings. As our glasses clinked, I felt something I hadn't in months. Hope. What do you think is worse? A sudden betrayal that nearly costs your life? Or the slow poison of letting someone convince you that your needs don't matter? If you've ever had to choose between your own well-being and someone else's comfort, let me know in the comments.